The Armani Hotel Dubai has gone dark. The most prestigious address inside the world's most prestigious tower, designed personally by Giorgio Armani, located on floors 38 and below of the Burj Khalifa, has shut down operations. The official communication says renovation. The reopening is scheduled for the final quarter of 2026. Read that timeline again. A hotel with one of the highest revenue per available room figures in the entire Gulf region has decided that the most rational financial decision is to keep its lights off through the entirety of the high season. Through Ramadan, through spring break, through every weekend that European families spend chasing winter sun, through every business conference that fills its suites at $600 a night. The Armani Hotel did not close because the carpets needed updating. The Armani Hotel closed because the math stopped working. And the Armani is not alone. The Burj Al Arab, the sail-shaped icon that has not undergone a major restoration since it opened in 1999, has been pulled from operation for an 18-month refurbishment. The St. Regis on the Palm has suspended most services until the end of August. Atlantis Dubai has paused operations at 7 of its restaurants, including Hakkasan and Oceano. This is not a coincidence. This is not seasonal maintenance. This is a synchronized retreat by the most valuable hospitality assets in the most observed city on Earth. The Burj Khalifa is still standing. Structurally, it is intact. But the building is not the product. The product was the dream the building was built to sell. And by every measure that matters except the structural one, that product is burning. This is the story of how the world's tallest tower lost everything that actually made it valuable, why it was always going to happen, and why the smoke is not clearing. Dubai sold a very specific dream, and it sold it brilliantly. The dream was that you could live the life of a Monaco resident at the price of a Florida condo. The dream was that you could put your money into a country where your wealth would be respected, your security guaranteed, and your skyline would never disappoint. The Burj Khalifa, completed in 2010 at a cost of $1.5 billion, rising 828 meters into the desert sky, was the physical proof of that dream. 828 meters. To put that in scale, that is more than twice the height of the Empire State Building. That is the Eiffel Tower stacked on top of the Eiffel Towers with room left over. Inside that tower lived the Armani Hotel, designed personally by Giorgio Armani. Around it was built downtown Dubai, the Dubai Mall, the dancing fountains, an entire district engineered to convert tourist arrivals into receipts. In 2025, Dubai welcomed nearly 20 million international visitors. The city's main airport, Dubai International, handled over 95 million passengers, more than any other hub on the planet. Tourism accounted for roughly 13% of national gross domestic product and sustained nearly 925,000 jobs. The Burj Khalifa observation decks ran at near capacity all year round. This was not a city in trouble. This was a city that had just posted 3 consecutive record-breaking years and was on a clear trajectory toward becoming the most visited destination on Earth. And then, in the space of 48 hours at the end of February 2026, every single one of those numbers became a historical artifact. This did not start overnight. Now let me bring you the numbers because the figures from the last several weeks are without precedent in the modern history of this city. Mamoun Maiden, chief business officer at the travel data firm Wego, told reporters that hotel occupancy across Dubai has dropped to between 15% and 20%. 15 to 20%. To anchor that number, healthy occupancy in a high-end Gulf market sits between 75% and 85% during the winter season. We are talking about a collapse of roughly 60 percentage points in 8 weeks. Hotel bookings have plummeted more than 60% since the attacks began, according to data compiled and reported by Foreign Policy, Fortune, and CNN. Dubai International Airport, which last year handled more than 95 million passengers, currently has terminals where parked aircraft outnumber moving travelers. Aviation data firm Cirium estimated that roughly 24% of all Middle East flights were grounded in the immediate aftermath. 3,000 daily flights were disrupted. 80% of scheduled departures from Dubai were canceled in the first wave. The World Travel and Tourism Council estimates the conflict is now wiping out approximately $600 million per day from Middle East tourism. $600 million per day. The council has projected that between 23 and 38 million fewer visitors may arrive in the region by the end of 2026 than were forecast just 6 months ago. On March 31, 2026, the Dubai government announced a 1 billion dirham relief package, approximately $272 million, to be rolled out over 3 to 6 months, starting April 1st. The package defers government fees for 3 months and allows hotels to postpone the full amount of their tourism dirham obligations. Governments do not write checks of that size for a temporary slowdown. They write them for a structural emergency. And here's the data point that contradicts almost every headline you have read in the last 2 months. The Armani Hotel, the property inside the Burj Khalifa itself, has temporarily ceased operations. The reopening is planned for the final quarter of 2026. The official framing is renovation. The actual context is that the most prestigious hotel inside the world's most prestigious tower could not justify keeping its lights on through high season. The Burj Al Arab, the sail-shaped icon that has not undergone a major restoration since it opened in 1999, has been pulled from operation for an 18-month refurbishment. The St. Regis on the Palm has suspended most services until the end of August. Atlantis Dubai has paused operations at 7 of its restaurants, including Hakkasan and Oceano. This is not a tourism dip. This is a synchronized retreat by the most valuable hospitality assets in the city. Here is where the story becomes more important than the headline. At approximately 8 p.m. on Saturday, February 28, 2026, an intercepted Iranian drone struck the Fairmont on Palm Jumeirah, igniting a major fire and injuring 4 people. Within the same hour, debris from another intercepted weapon struck the lower facade of the Burj Al Arab, setting flames licking up the side of one of the most photographed buildings on Earth. The Burj Khalifa was evacuated as a precaution. Dubai International Airport sustained damage and 4 employees were injured. A fire broke out at Jebel Ali Port, the city's main commercial sea terminal. The UAE Ministry of Defense reported that air defense systems intercepted 165 ballistic missiles, 2 cruise missiles, and more than 540 Iranian drones over the course of 48 hours. The vast majority were intercepted. But interception does not mean nothing falls. The debris falls. And on Saturday, February 28th, the debris fell on Dubai's most expensive square kilometer. Victoria Thompson, a Scottish tourist who was dining at the Fairmont when the impact occurred, told CNN that she does not know when she will feel comfortable returning to Dubai. Christy Elmer, an American business traveler from New Hampshire, told reporters that she stayed away from the windows of her hotel and listened to what she described as hundreds of explosions through the night. Louise Hairley, an American tourist whose flight home was canceled, said it was her 3rd attempt to visit the region. A Pakistani taxi driver who was working the Palm Corridor when the Fairmont caught fire described his earnings as completely cut off from one day to the next. These are not abstract data points. These are the people whose Saturday evening became the moment Dubai stopped being Dubai. Cinzia Bianco, an expert on the Persian Gulf at the European Council on Foreign Relations, wrote on X in the immediate aftermath that this is Dubai's ultimate nightmare, because the city's very essence depended on being a safe oasis in a troubled region. That sentence is the entire analytical frame for what comes next. Dubai did not sell luxury. Monaco sells luxury. Dubai did not sell warmth. The Mediterranean sells warmth. Dubai sold one specific product packaged in 1,000 brochures and 1,000 Instagram captions. Dubai sold certainty. Dubai sold the promise that you could live in the Middle East without ever having to think about the Middle East. Saturday, February 28th, ended that promise. The conflict did not create Dubai's vulnerabilities. It exposed them. The impact is not uniform. It never is. Dubai is home to 237 centimillionaires and more than 20 billionaires. In 2025 alone, approximately $63 billion in wealth migrated to the emirate. For this layer, the impact of February 28th is real but absorbable. Some have already left on chartered jets. Charter flight operators reported being completely sold out for several days following the strikes. But the villas in Emirates Hills are not being liquidated. The waterfront mansions on Palm Jumeirah are not flooding the market. The ultra-wealthy treat geopolitical risk the way the rest of us treat traffic. An inconvenience to be routed around, not a crisis to be solved. They will wait this out, and many will buy at the bottom. The middle layer is where the pain is visible. The professional expat who moved her family to a two-bedroom in Dubai Marina on the promise of tax-free salary growth and predictable schools. The mid-tier investor who put the savings of 2 decades into an off-plan apartment in Business Bay. The European retiree who chose the golden visa route because it sounded more secure than Spain or Portugal. This layer signed up for the certainty product. This is the layer that is now reading travel advisories from their own foreign ministries, recalculating their insurance terms, and asking whether the school year will finish normally. According to UBS, even before the February strikes, household income growth in Dubai was already failing to keep pace with property price increases. The certainty was already eroding. February just made it visible. If you want the complete breakdown of this pattern across 7 cities, it is all inside Cities Collapsing. The link is in the description below. Now let us keep going, because the deepest layer is the one that almost never gets reported. The bottom layer is the one that makes the Dubai economic model possible, and the one that pays the highest price when the model wobbles. Dubai's 925,000 tourism-related jobs are filled overwhelmingly by migrant workers from South Asia, the Philippines, and East Africa. The taxi driver who works 14-hour shifts to send remittances to Karachi or Manila. The construction worker who builds the next tower in 45-degree heat. The hotel housekeeper who cleans the rooms that are now empty. These workers do not have golden visas. They do not have severance protections at the level of European labor law. When occupancy drops to 15%, the math of their contracts becomes brutal very quickly. The dream was never a single dream. It was 3 or 4 completely different dreams sold under the same brand. And when the brand cracked, every layer cracked in its own way and at its own speed. Here's the part that the official reports will not say out loud. The vulnerability that February 28th exposed was not built on February 28th. It was engineered into the city over 15 years. The signs were everywhere for anyone who wanted to read them. The credit rating agency Fitch issued a warning in 2025 that Dubai's residential property market faces a potential price correction of up to 15% through late 2025 and 2026. The reason was not war. The reason was supply. After a 60% run-up in residential prices between 2022 and early 2025, Fitch projected that approximately 210,000 new housing units were scheduled for delivery, roughly double the completion rate of the previous 3 years. UBS, in its January 2026 report, ran a stress test on a scenario in which 110,500 residential units are delivered in a single year, against a 10-year average of 27,000. 27,000 is the historical average. The 2026 scenario is more than 4 times that. UBS warned that a 10% decline in selling prices combined with flat construction costs could compress Emar's development margins from 44% to 38% and Alder's from 38% to 31%. UBS also placed Dubai in its 2025 Global Real Estate Bubble Index in the company of overheated metropolitan markets. The bank warned that building permits suggest new construction could reach levels last seen in 2017, the year that amplified the previous downturn in Dubai's housing market. The bank also flagged a structural problem that has nothing to do with missiles. Saudi Arabia is opening designated zones to foreign property buyers from 2026. Riyadh and Abu Dhabi are competing harder for the offshore investment capital that Dubai assumed was permanently captured. The competition for Dubai's core customer was already intensifying before the first drone fell. Construction and real estate together account for more than 17% of Dubai's gross domestic product. That is not a diversified economy. That is a city whose financial engine is the same engine that produces and prices the buildings the engine itself depends on. When tourism flows weaken, real estate yields weaken. When real estate yields weaken, off-plan sales weaken. When off-plan sales weaken, developer cash flow weakens. When developer cash flow weakens, construction stops. When construction stops, the migrant workforce empties out. When the migrant workforce empties out, the rental market empties out. This is the loop. February 28th did not cause it. February 28th simply pressed the accelerator. The most important voice in this analysis is not mine. It is the voice from inside. In 2025, Issam Kazim, the chief executive officer of Dubai's Department of Economy and Tourism, admitted at a global travel forum that the city was working to develop what he called a deeper sense of soul, a stronger cultural identity beyond the skyscrapers and the malls. That is the head of Dubai Tourism saying in public that the product as it stood was missing something essential. Prominent Emirati lawyers have publicly criticized the city's traffic congestion and infrastructure strain on social media. Mamoun Hamaidan, the Ouigo executive cited earlier, is himself a senior figure within the regional travel industry. The most damaging analytical statements about Dubai's vulnerabilities in the last 12 months have come not from foreign critics, but from the people whose careers are built on the city's success. When the establishment is signaling, you listen. Let me close this honestly because pessimism is as lazy as boosterism. Dubai has survived crises before. The 2008 property crash was followed after a deep correction by a recovery that ultimately produced the record-breaking 2025 numbers. The 8.4% population decline in 2020 was followed by record arrivals 2 years later. That resilience is documented and real. Ignoring it would be dishonest. But there is a critical distinction that needs to be made, and almost no one is making it. There is operational recovery and there is confidence recovery, and these are two different projects on two different timelines. Operational recovery is fast. Hotels reopen, flights resume, the dancing fountains turn back on. Dubai is excellent at operational recovery. We will probably see most operational metrics begin to normalize within 6 to 9 months of a regional ceasefire. Confidence recovery is slower and more uncertain. The tourist who heard hundreds of explosions through her hotel window will not rebook for years. The golden visa applicant who watched the Burj Al Arab burn on her phone will think twice. The institutional investor who watched the Dubai financial market suspend trading for the first time in its history during the March 2nd and 3rd closures will price political risk into Dubai assets in a way that did not exist before. Asset price recovery is the slowest of all. The 2008 correction took roughly 7 years to fully unwind in the prime segments. With 210,000 new units coming, Saudi competition opening, and a regional security premium now permanently embedded in Gulf risk modeling, the next correction may take longer. The Burj Khalifa is still standing. Structurally, it is intact, but the building is not the product. The product was certainty. The product was the promise that this was the one place in the Middle East where the Middle East could not reach you. That product was struck on February 28th, 2026, and the smoke is not clearing because the smoke was never about the building. It was about the story the building was built to tell. If you lived in Dubai, or if you were planning to move there, or if you put money into property there because the certainty number on the brochure looked unbeatable, the calculation has changed for you. Tell me how in the comments. I read them, and the most useful insights in this channel come from people who lived the story from the inside. And if this kind of in-depth analysis of what is actually happening inside the world's most watched cities is what you came here for, you already know what to do.